Hey there everybody, it's Mark Curley. I'm back with another how to draw video. Actually, this is more of a how to color video, and the drawing that you're looking at here is not by me, it is by SOPHIE-CHAN, the great YouTube video creator, and she and I have decided to do a collaboration on this video. She did the pencils, and I'm going to add the color. Now, I'm doing a little bit of a handheld shot here so you can see the whole image. When I get into doing the actual coloring, I think I'm going to have to zoom in and do piece by piece, but I wanted you to see the whole picture that she did here of Miki, my main character from Miki Falls. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's just go ahead and get into it. Alright, so you saw me put down a light wash of flesh tone. That's made mainly of this Naples yellow watercolor with just a touch of red. And the first thing that I need to put across to you all is that it's very important if you want to use watercolors to do the initial pencil illustration on Bristol board, smooth Bristol. It's nice and thick and it won't wrinkle so much as ordinary drawing paper when you try to add watercolor. Now you saw that I did that all in time-lapse, and unfortunately there's going to be a lot of time-lapse in this video because I could put as much as an hour or two into the coloring of this image, and I don't want to make a 2-hour video. Much as some of you might like to watch that. So I'm going to keep doing things in time-lapse, but then kind of coming back to explain my choices after I've done them. So let's get on to doing the eyes here. Okay, so you see I did a kind of a mid-tone wash of brown here, sort of ochre brown, and maybe I can do just a little bit here real time. I'm going to add darkness into the pupils. This is not actually jet black as it would be in real life, but it's kind of a brown, a shade of brown. And what I have done here, you can see already, is I have made darker areas near the top of the iris, rather than near the bottom, and that is a fairly common technique that I see. Now you see that SOPHIE-CHAN, what am I saying, SOPHIE-CHAN left these highlights here, these little white dots, and that is hugely important for making shiny looking eyes. So if you're doing an eye coloring technique like this, make sure that you leave a nice white highlight, at least one, near the top of the iris. Some people like to go for the real sparkly effect, and in that situation you will get several highlights. In fact, I will probably be adding a highlight down here using white gouache or something later on. But again, I have to keep things moving. I could easily spend an hour if I try to do this real time. So I just wanted to pause and sort of explain what I'm doing there. But you're going to see me add more and more coloring detail to this before I move on to the next part of the drawing. Alright, well I feel like I've got enough of the basics of the eyes for now. I'm going to shift the focus over to the hair and we'll start working on that. Okay, so you can see I put down a light wash of brown color as evenly as I could across all of the hair. And now I'm going to go back in and start adding slightly darker browns to give the hair more definition. Alright, well you can see I moved through an awful lot of stuff in time-lapse there. It's just a time-consuming process, and maybe I can do a separate video at some point about just watercoloring hair alone. I could certainly fill a whole video with that type of instruction. But as a general rule here, in terms of what you see me doing, my idea was that there's light coming from this side, so I'm going to leave quite a lot of this area here light, and then gradually darken things in as we go from right to left. You know, one of the reasons that I don't do a lot of how to color videos is my approach to coloring is all my own. You know, it's kind of I don't want anyone to think that this is the way to do it or even a standard way to do it. I've sort of found my own. I'm very self-taught when it comes to watercoloring, and I'm a little afraid to say, hey, this is a good way of doing it, guys. I think everyone kind of finds their own way, and hopefully this can give you just a few tips. Now, what I'm going to do now, while we're in this area, is show you how I can mix in some other drawing tools, namely a little bit of pastel and maybe some colored pencil to add further definition to the hair. So let me go ahead and grab a little bit of pastel, I think I'll start with, and show you how that can be used to add additional color. Okay, so I've grabbed a piece of brown chalky pastel, dry pastel, definitely not oil pastel. And basically what I'm going to use this for is maybe not so much to get definition to the hair, as I probably just said a moment ago, but to get a very gradual gradation of light to dark, which is tricky to do with watercolor, a little easier to do, for me anyway, with pastel, because you can smear this stuff around and it's very easy to make it really blend. Okay, so if I want this area over here to gradually become darker and darker in a very almost like airbrushy way, I find for me that it is easier, considerably easier to do that with pastel. And, you know, I'm just sort of dropping in lines here that I know are not final lines. It's just almost a way of getting the material onto the page so that I can go and start doing this smearing effect, which is going to, you know, when we're done with this, hopefully create a nice feeling of light cascading across the hair. So that's one additional tool that you can use to add color to the illustration. Why not, while we're here, go ahead and show you how I could even use colored pencil to put an additional technique into this. Okay, so now I've got a simple brown colored pencil, and I'm just using this to fine-tune things, get some more lines in here, separating out these various strands of hair. Now, again, because I've decided the light source is on the left, I'm not using so much of this pencil over here on the left side of the page where it's going to be, you know, quite brightly lit. But as I move along, I can use it more and more in a darker and darker way to further define the lines between these different strands of hair. I find that coloring hair in particular is very challenging, and you can see that I sort of work my way toward the final result very gradually, very cautiously, and especially in this case because I know that Sophie-Chan put a lot of work into doing those pencils. I don't want to mess it up by just going in with really bold, dark brown right from the beginning. And just my whole coloring technique is built upon the idea of getting there gradually and seeing how it looks little by little, rather than doing big, gutsy splashes of color that I just have to commit to right away. And so, yeah, all of the stuff that I'm doing here is sort of like almost temporary, or something that I can go on top of, add to, as I gradually reach my final result. All right, well, I think you've seen enough of that, and what I might do now is move on to a different section of the illustration. How about we move down to the clothes and get a little bit of that done? Okay, so I put in a very light wash, or relatively light wash anyway, of blue, a little bit of gray, and red, and it kind of is the same principle that I've been following from the beginning. You start light, and then you go in with the next layer, which will be a little darker, and gradually build your way towards the very darkest areas. Now you need to have some kind of understanding of light and where the shadows will fall when you move on to this next part of the coloring process. Not that I'm a huge expert in it, but you know, generally speaking, if the light is coming from over here, your shadows are going to be darkest over on the right-hand edges of things. And again, I think this video could easily sprawl on to incredible lengths. So I'm going to go ahead and do this next bit in time-lapse, and then maybe come back and talk about adding a bit of pastel to finish off this part of the drawing. Alright, so you can see I used a little blue pastel to sort of intensify the blue in that section of it. And now I'm going in with a little bit of gray pastel to show you how pastel can be great for sort of smooth gradations of color. If I were trying to create this effect with watercolor, it would be very challenging indeed. Likewise, even colored pencil, it can be done, but you know, it takes a lot of patience to gradually build up a smooth tone that really comes very naturally to the tool of the pastel. So, you know, again, I think we're going to have to view this as a general overview of different coloring techniques. There was never going to be a way that I could have covered every single moment of the illustration in one video. But hopefully you found some interesting techniques here. I'm going to go ahead and finish up and bring this to the level of adding final polish, those sort of final touches, and that'll be the last part of the video. Alright, so we're ready for one of the final touches in this video, and I'm using white gouache here, pretty much straight out of the tube. I've tried to adjust the lighting here so that it shows up nicely. Forgive me if it doesn't. But this white, these little dabs of white here are going to provide highlights on the hair, which will give a nice little shimmer, hopefully, when we pull back at the end to show the entire image. Yeah, it looks like it's showing up. And one thing that happens is that it looks very, very white when you first put it on, but as it dries, it'll sort of get a little more pale, and you may have to add additional touch-ups. But what I'm doing here in this case is putting some highlights just along this left edge and kind of letting up on it as we go across here to the point where it eventually sort of trails off and vanishes. And some people will make this highlight go all the way across. I think it's going to be more effective if it's, for my purposes, if it's a little more bold on one side and like I said, sort of trails off as it goes along. And the other thing that we can do, and maybe I can just sort of adjust the light a little bit, is I want to move down to doing the eyes and show you how this gouache can also be used for not only touching up that highlight and making it pop, right, there and there, but also getting a secondary highlight down here. Not every artist will do this, but it is sort of a nice little final touch that you can do. Just a little added reflected light there. And yeah, that's basically the end of this video in terms of things like you might do just a little touch on the nose. Sometimes people will do that. But I'm going to go ahead and pull all the way back to, as I did at the beginning of the video, sort of a handheld shot that will allow you to see the finished product before we end this video. Alright, well there you have it, the finished illustration. Big thank you to SOPHIE-CHAN for doing such a beautiful pencil that allowed me to do this illustration. And please, all of you watching this video, go check out her channel. I'll go ahead and put an annotation link right here for you to do that. Otherwise, just you know, do a YouTube search for SOPHIE-CHAN. I'm sure you'll be able to find it pretty quickly. But let's go ahead and wind this one down. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful. And I'll be back with another one real soon.